tracking winds, waves, and wet weather for our Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Let's dive headfirst into our full forecast. We have an atmospheric river currently crossing through San Francisco in Northern California. This atmospheric river dropped a ton of rainfall over the last day or so. However, it's transitioning into a cold front, and by the time it makes it to the central coast, we're just on the very tail end of the system. So our clouds are already starting to increase along with our winds, and watch as we step through time when it comes to wet weather. So early this morning, 9:30, we're getting some small indications of isolated showers off the coastline, but the real bulk of the moisture not set to move in until about 1 p.m. So Morro Bay and a lot of our areas to the north starting to get the first readings of wet weather. As we travel through 2:30 p.m., light amounts of rainfall for the entire coverage zone, and then by dinner time, San Luis Obispo, Santa Maria, and Lompoc now getting a little bit of action. However, rainfall with this system very light. We're getting those readings of light green and maybe some blues out there. Holding soggy through 7 p.m. Light winds as well, maybe a little blustery in high terrain areas. Some more scattered showers by 9:30 p.m. But you can see here Ventura, Santa Barbara, not likely to get much as far as this activity. Into the overnight hours, we'll watch out for some more spotty showers, but into Thursday, we're warming up and we're drying out. We even have some good beach weather ahead of us. However, we're tracking king tides, and it's highly advised to stay away from the coastline. So let's talk about it. Some of the largest breaking waves of 2025 expected as we travel into our weekend. We're watching out for sneaker waves, where it's highly advised to stay away from rocks and jetties, and that's due in part to the Badger moon. Yes, that's right. One of the largest moons of 2025 is actually close enough to Earth to influence our tidal force. Even though the moon is relatively small, we're going to be looking at those really intense waves not only today but heading into our weekend. Here's our high surf advisory, 8 to 12 foot waves expected. This was now pushed back through 9 p.m. this evening, but it was extended into early Saturday morning. So 18-foot waves, local sets 18 to 20 foot are still possible. We're looking at those waves that could capsize small boats. I know it's wet Wednesday here in Santa Barbara. A lot of people like to be out on the waters, but it's not advised to do so. Dangerous rip currents, and we're looking at some of the biggest impacts for our west-facing coastline. As early as 4 a.m. tomorrow, our coastal flood advisory goes into effect. Moderate flooding pretty likely, and really big waves expected through Morro Bay. This is going to last through 2 p.m. on Friday. Here in Santa Barbara, we even have a beach hazard statement. This was issued late last night by the National Weather Service. We're looking at high tide around 7 to 11 a.m. all the way through Friday. And we're also watching out for our waves anywhere from 3 to 6 feet, so not nearly as impactful as our west-facing coastline, but you'll want to keep an eye on our waves, our winds, and of course, our wet weather. Here's a look at our future track rainfall. So not much as far as impacts when it comes to wet weather, just 1/10 of an inch in San Luis Obispo, a little bit more there in Morro Bay, and maybe trace amounts for the rest of the region if we're lucky. But hey, we'll take any rainfall we can get. Here's a look at our winds. We're mapping out the next couple hours. Blustery to start out at the beaches early this morning. We're going to watch out for those winds pretty much just to the north of Gaviota. 11:30 in the morning, anywhere from 10 to 15 miles per hour. Blustery in high terrain areas as well. Even the interior, 10 miles per hour as we track through about dinner time. Overnight, no sundowner winds expected. Minimal winds down in Ventura County. Again, we're really just on the leading edge or the tail end of this system. It's dying down significantly. As far as temperatures, however, it's a chilly one out there. Sweater weather for most beach areas. We only have one place breaking past the 70s, and that's Arroyo Grande. The rest of us into the mid to upper 60s. Overnight lows are into the 40s and 50s. Biggest impacts expected in the waves, so highly advised stay in the harbor. If you have a boat, do not head out on those coastal waters for at least the next couple days. Today's not a bad afternoon for maybe a nice movie inside, or maybe even a nice round of golf. Enjoy.